All right, Shalom. Shalom, it's your brother, brother Morris. Real quick, I wanted to handle the question Sister Marissa put in the group, and group been having some interesting things. We definitely gonna get together so we can all talk about those things. But real quick, I know she said something about the Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 5. And a lot of people use this, right? That's why it's important, like Brother Tyrus has been saying, to have an historical foundation and see the Bible from a Hebrew perspective, because the Bible was written by Hebraic people and in the Hebraic language with a Hebraic thought. So you cannot use an American thought and try to identify what the speaker is saying. It was two Hebraic people to their culture, and the revelation, even that the Messiah had gave, he was given to the Israelite people for them to get an understanding. So he would relate things that's in their culture, relate different hidden truths, different revelations in their culture so they can understand it. So now it's not important for us just to try to relate our time to daytime, but try to relate daytime to our time. Get in there, understand their culture, understand what they was getting at, so we can get the full revelation of what they were speaking of. Speaking of this, also that's why it's important to have the foundation in the Torah to understand that some of the things that the apostle was saying and the prophets were saying. Now, concerning the scripture, Ephesians 6 and 5 all the way down, and it talks about, a lot of people try to use this. It says, well, the Bible condones slavery, and the Bible condones, what we went through over here. That's why you should throw it out. But that's a person that is trying to bring an American mind and concept and understand what a scripture is saying without having a foundation in the Torah or a foundation in the Hebraic ways of doing things. Now, when you understand this, when we hear slaves, or which it really translates to servants, when we hear slaves, obey your masters as unto the Lord. Now, we think of American chattel slavery, the brutal slavery that we went through, and saying that God condoned it. No, that is not what they were saying. This is why you must cross-reference and go to Leviticus 25 and find out what was going on in the culture. Leviticus 25, starting at verse 14, all the way down to, I think, verse 55. And you will see the law of selling oneself in order to pay a debt. And this was called indentured servanthood. Indentured servanthood is nothing like chattel slavery. And once you read Leviticus 25, starting at verse 14, and read it all the way down, you will see, while Paul was saying that servants obey, but then he also says masters don't treat them wrongly. But he's basing that off of what's already in the law in Leviticus 25 that tells those that go into indentured servanthood and those that are over them not to treat them rigorously, or not to treat them mean, or not to try to hurt them. Because this was the concept and the thought. If I had a house and I could not pay the bill and I fell behind, I'm all the way behind, but I had a brother that's a millionaire, and he's not just going to give me $1 million. I'll go and sell my service to him, which is I'm giving him, I'm saying, I'm going to work for you. Anything that you desire me to do, anything you need me to do, anything that any project, any work, I'm going to give you my service to do whatever that you need me to do in order to get myself out the debt. So that's what they was doing also in Hebraic times. They would go, if they would be in debt. If you look at Leviticus 25, starting at verse 14 on down, you would see how they would go and lend themselves to be indentured servants to another Israelite. And the scripture says, do not treat another Israelite rigorously. When a man is devoting himself to work for you for a specific debt, then he has to work for you as he was working for the Lord. Because the Most High was saying, you're not going to sell yourself to work for a person and then you start doing what you want to do. No, you need to work for him because it's an opportunity for your debt to be paid. You need to work for him as you are working for the Lord. And then he looks at the person that you're lending your service to, which will be called a master. He said, no, now don't you treat this person rigorously in a mean type of way, because you were once slaves or servants in Egypt, so you know how it feels to be treated rigorously. So it said if you having a brother that's paying off a debt, treat him the right way until he can get his debt paid off, or until the year of Jubilee. When the year of Jubilee, then all debt is canceled and you have to let that person go free. But until that time, if he don't have a brother, he don't have an uncle or somebody that can pay that debt off, then he sells himself. The same type of way that happened even with some strangers. It even says that if you sell yourself to a stranger, you go and you serve that stranger. But if you don't have a brother, cousin, nobody to pay the debt, then you give yourself to get that debt paid. But it's not like chattel slavery. It's indentured servanthood. And this is what you would do in order to get your debt paid off. So that was not, we can't thank American chattel slavery and get upset about that, because that was part of the Hebrew culture, a way to pay your debt off. The same way we see an example of that with Jacob and Laban. Jacob wanted Rachel. So Laban made him what? Give his services by staying with him and doing what he say for 7 years in order to pay whatever debt for his daughter. But he gave him Leah first. So what he had to do, he worked and gave himself another 7 years. So Jacob had to serve him as he was serving up to the Lord. But Laban was wrong because he did him wrong at the end. But he was supposed to treat him the right way, the same way Ephesians 6:5 is talking about. So it's not talking about chattel slavery where you beat somebody, you hang somebody, you destroy somebody, you hurt somebody. That's not talking about that. That was talking within the culture. So Paul was just re-emphasizing what Leviticus 25:14 on down was saying. No, you don't go and lend your services and tell, just like a regular job. I can't go to my job and tell these people what I want to do, what I ain't going to do. I want to go to work whatever time I want to get to work. I show up when I want to get showed. No, it says, no, you work as unto the Lord. So I'm supposed to serve my job as I'm working unto the Lord. Why? Because they helping me pay my debts. It's the same type of thing. So they ain't supposed to treat me with rigorously. You see what I'm saying? So it's important to understand the Bible in a Hebraic way. You cannot spiritualize everything, because if you make your foundation the Torah, you'll understand the concepts, the idioms, the revelations that are brought out in the New Testament. But if you just try to stay New Testament, New Testament, New Testament, you're going to miss and have the wrong concept and understanding of the revelation and the wisdom that the Most High was trying to give. So like the scripture says, that the law was a schoolmaster unto Christ. You cannot just say bump the law and you ain't went through the school to try to understand Christ. The schoolmaster is in the Torah, and that's not done away with. You understand? And that's not Moses' law, because Moses didn't give it. God gave them commandments. So it's important to understand in Ephesians 6:5, it's not talking about like people say, well, the white man enslaved us and he used Ephesians 6:5. He might have taught that doctrine, but he didn't teach the understanding. So let's see the Bible from a Hebraic type of way, a Hebraic type of understanding, so we can understand the only culture that the Most High gave mankind was the Hebraic culture. All right, hope that helps. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Got a lot of things coming up. Also got a conference coming up this actual weekend. Pastor Louis Dorm, he's going to be coming down giving us some great insights this coming Saturday and Sunday. We'll try to Facebook Live it. If we can't, I'll try to upload it the same day. Shalom. Give me your feedback off this. All right.